Yay, live.
Everyone can hear you now, Josie.
Oh, good.
Yeah. All right. Good evening or good morning, wherever you are in the world. I'm Regina Yao, the founder and president of the Pixel Project, and I'm moderating the 4th Google Hangout session of the 3rd annual fall edition of our Read for Pixels campaign. Through Read for Pixels, the Pixel Project is collaborating with 11 award-winning best-selling authors to raise awareness about violence against women and to raise funds towards the Celebrity Male Role Model Pixel Reveal campaign, which aims to raise $1 million for the Pixel Project and the USA's National Coalition Against Domestic Violence to keep our efforts to end violence against women alive and kicking. We'll also be telling you more about the Read for Pixels fundraiser, which has lots and lots and lots and lots of exclusive author goodies a little later in the session. And you can find out more about the Pixel Project at www.thepixelproject.net. Now, today we have a very special, very awesome guest. Please join me in welcoming Josephine Angelini. Josie is a graduate of New York University's, is it Tisch, Josie?
Tisch,
yeah.
School of the Arts.
Yeah, there you go, guys. You can hear Josie now. I'll put it on the screen soon. Tisch School of Arts in Theater with a focus on the classics. Josie's originally from Massachusetts, and she now lives in Los Angeles with a screenwriter husband, their baby girl, and 3 shelter cats who are nowhere to be seen right now. Her Star-Crossed trilogy is an international best-selling series which has garnered the praise of various major publications, including the Los Angeles Times, and have twice won the Reader's Choice Awards in Germany. The final book in the WORLDWALKER trilogy, Witch's Pyre, will be out in the US this month. Josie, it's 20th of September, right?
That's right, on the 20th, so 10 days here in the US it comes out.
And it's already out in the UK, so if you're in the UK, good for you. The rest of us are just hanging on the cliffhanger. So Josie has also generously donated a signed and personalized Star-Crossed trilogy, a signed and personalized WORLDWALKER's duology, and a 200-word micro-story especially written for one generous donor. And they have all already been snapped up by several of Josie's fans who have made some very generous donations. We'd like to give a big thank you to Maria McGann in the UK. She's donated all the way from the UK. Carmen Alvarez and Yara. I don't know Yara's last name, but yeah, Yara. Thank you so much.
Yara.
Yeah, I'm gonna put Josie on the screen so she can say thanks too. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you so much, everybody, for the generous donations and for supporting the Pixel Project. This is fantastic. I'm so happy that you all turned out for it and that you all get my signed books now. So, yay.
So just a couple more things to tell everyone before we switch over to Josie to do her reading, because she's going to do, I don't know what her reading's going to be, but hopefully it'll get us off that damn cliffhanger.
No.
Okay, so right, there are still plenty of goodies left from other authors. There are the goodies are currently there on our Indiegogo page, and they'll soon be released too. There'll be plenty of really great goodies to be released soon. We're releasing them in waves because there's so many of them, and so please go give generously. All funds go towards the Celebrity Male Role Model campaign to help end violence against women. Now I'm going to put Josie on screen, and Josie's going to do a reading today for us. So over to you, Josie.
Okay, first of all, wait, Regina, did you want me to read from the new book or from anyone in the WORLDWALKER series?
You don't want to get us off the cliffhanger, right? Before it hits.
You know, I was going to read because I wanted to do something that would springboard into a conversation on violence against women. So I was going to do a reading from the first book, but I mean, yeah. So, I mean, I can't see votes or anything like that. If you guys want me to read the first chapter of the 3rd book, or if you just want...
wait, we could ask. Guys, I just needed to tell you that if you wanted to ask questions, if you're watching this on Google Hangouts, yeah, the question box is to the right of the screen, and you can just click ask question and type in your vote. We'll give you a minute. Type in your vote.
Let's give everyone a few minutes to like figure out if they really want that. I mean, I was gonna do a reading from the first book, but I want, you know, let's have some interaction here. Let's
okay, guys. Okay, guys. The question box is open. Type it in. If we don't see anything in about a minute, we'll go with what Josie wanted to read originally, because we're talking about violence against women today. Okay, guys, vote. Anyone? It's still black, Josie. We can't see anyone yet. Is anyone reading? I can see that says 5 of you there. Come on, guys. Okay, Flora Silva says, hi, Josephine. Flora from Mexico City.
Hi.
And she says, first book will be great for me.
Okay, great. So that's what we're going to go with.
Okay, anyone else? Last call, last call. Anyone else? Okay, no one else. I guess we're going with the first book then.
Okay, great. So I'm actually going to read from the beginning of the first book, because there isn't, in my books in general, there isn't a lot of violence against women. Like I personally don't write about it because I find that there's enough of it out there. You know what I mean? Like, I've read it before. I see it on the news every night. So rather than write scenes where women are getting either abused or taken advantage of, I write scenes where women are leading armies into battle and stuff like that. But I do have one scene at the beginning of my WORLDWALKER trilogy where I think it's a situation that a lot of women can find themselves in, where women find themselves in trouble in a situation, in a party situation especially. And I've seen this a lot personally, because I was a bartender in a nightclub for 15 years, so a really long time. I put myself through college bartending. So I saw a lot of this happening, and I wanted to write about it in something. So Lily and Tristan are going to a party at their friend Scott's house. So here we go. Okay, hey man, Scott says smoothly as he greeted Tristan. Wow, Lily, I think this is a first. Scott faced Lily, taking in her altered appearance. He was a big guy, as tall as Tristan, if not quite as developed, and Lily had to tilt her head back to look him in the eye. He stood close to Lily, smiling down at her in a friendly way. Scott had always seemed a bit too sly to Lily, like he was trying to find an angle on any situation, and she'd avoided him because of it. Now she wondered if she had judged him too harshly. He had a nice smile, she decided. Lily didn't want to be the snide, cold loner anymore. She wanted to be part of her class, if only for a few months. You don't mind, do you? Lily asked, smiling back at him. Are you kidding? I'm going to have to throw another party to celebrate you actually showing up to one of my parties. Scott flashed her a smile, his smile even wider, making Lily feel truly welcome. Drink? I'll have a beer. Water for Lily, Tristan answered. Scott raised an eyebrow. Lily doesn't drink, Tristan stressed, a hint of warning in his voice. Oh, that's cool. I'm not drinking tonight either, Scott said as he waded through the crowd to the kitchen. He pulled a beer and a bottle of water out of a giant tub of ice on the counter and brought it over to them. Just a heads up, Miranda's here, Scott said, as he politely opened the water bottle for Lily and handed it to her. Christ, Tristan said under his breath, scanning the growing crowd. She's downstairs in the family room, dancing or stripping. I can't figure out which at this point, Scott said with a wry grimace. Why don't you go and talk to her before she comes up here and starts throwing things at you? Tristan glanced at Lily, silently asking permission. Go, seriously, you need to take care of that, Lily replied immediately, sounding much more encouraging than she felt. I'll keep Lily company, Scott offered. Make sure she doesn't. He gestured into the kitchen with his head, where 4 beefy dudes were downing shots and doing a lot of unnecessary shoving and bellowing. Okay, I'll be back in a bit, Tristan finally decided, or I'll be back in bits, depending upon what kind of mood Miranda's in. He drank most of his beer in one gulp. Courage, man, Scott said bracingly, fixing Tristan's shirt. Thanks, dear, Tristan replied, like they were husband and wife. Lily watched their joking around, feeling the warm glow of inclusion. When Tristan had gone, Scott took Lily's elbow and steered her in the opposite direction. I think it would be a good idea to keep you as far away from Miranda as possible. There's no reason for her to be upset with me, Lily said. Maybe, maybe not. Scott stopped to admire her. You really look great tonight. Lily dropped her eyes, feeling her cheeks heat up. Thanks. Look out! Scott grabbed Lily's arm and pulled her toward him suddenly, making her drop her bottle of water. Behind Lily, two drunk girls stumbled past, debating which path to the bathroom would lead them by the cutest boys. Sorry about that, Scott said after the girls left. I'll get you another. It's okay, really, Lily began, but he'd already picked up the bottle and was making his way to the kitchen. Lily took some napkins off a nearby coffee table and mopped up the spilled water as best as she could while she waited for Scott. He came back moments later with a glass of bubbly red juice. No more water. Sorry, the only thing in the fridge was cranberry juice and seltzer. I mixed them. Is that okay? It's fine, Lily said, taking a sip of her fizzy cranberry juice. It tasted a little sour, like it had gone bad, but she swallowed it and smiled anyway. You don't have to stay with me if you don't want to, you know. I know. It was Scott's turn to blush. I want to, though. I've always wanted to hang out with you. Did you know that? No, I didn't. Another wave of partygoers passed through the busy living room, made Scott and Lily reposition themselves. Do you want to go somewhere cooler? He asked. I know you get hot easily. Tristan told me once. Lily was so surprised she just nodded. She had no idea that Scott knew anything more about her than her name. How's your drink? He asked as he led her upstairs. Great. Lily took another big gulp to be polite, even though the mix of seltzer and cranberry burned her tongue a bit. It's really stuffy in here. There's a balcony off my room. Scott swung the door to his bedroom open and went inside. Lily stopped on the threshold. Something didn't feel right. Oh, you don't have to worry, he said, holding up his hands in a surrender gesture. He rushed over to the balcony doors on the other side of the room and opened them for Lily. She felt a gust of cool, clear air rush toward her and nearly sighed with pleasure. It's just everybody smoking on the patio out front, and my room faces the back. You can leave the door open if that makes you feel more comfortable. She felt stupid for doubting him. It's okay. No, you're right. And I'd rather be on the non-smoking side of the house. Lily resisted the urge to get a giggle. Her body felt warm and gooey. She crossed the bedroom and joined Scott on the balcony, breathing in the crisp air, trying to clear her head. Can't catch my breath. The heat got to you. Sit, Scott urged. And Lily sank down next to him on the outdoor love seat. This is really nice. I've never known a teenager with his own balcony. But then again, I haven't been in many guys' rooms. She had no idea why she just said that. For some reason, she felt like telling her life story, and she shut her mouth to stop herself from spilling her guts. You've been in Tristan's room, Scott countered quietly. Sure, thousands of times. Lily saw a question steal across Scott's face, and then disappointment. Oh, no, but not like that. Really? Scott narrowed his eyes, disbelieving. Never. Isn't he your boyfriend? Well, we only just started seeing each other like that. Lily started laughing. She had no idea what was so funny. She just couldn't seem to stop herself. Lily took another sip of her drink, trying to calm down, but instead of cooling her off, the drink only made her feel more hot and flushed. She put the sweating side of the glass against her cheek. Scott stared at her for a long moment, an unreadable expression on his face. I knew you were it. What? The only girl he hasn't been with yet. Scott took the drink out of Lily's hands and slid closer. She moved away and hit her back on the arm of the love seat. Lily tried to stand up, but Scott leaned over her, putting his hand on the armrest and caging her against the cushions. Lily's vision swam unsettlingly, and she froze, trying to keep the horizon from tilting back and forth. Lily was still trying to make the floor stop spinning underneath her when she felt Scott's tongue in her mouth. So that's where I'm going to stop, because I would like all of you to keep reading that scene, or to just discuss it in general.
Yeah. Yeah, when I read this scene, I was like, oh, this is really real. I mean, anyone who's been to a party as a teenager or in college, yeah, that happens.
Yeah, it happens. Like, people just, even if especially if you say I don't drink, somebody's going to try to get you to drink, you know. And it's a situation that I find a lot of young women find themselves in, and they're always like, oh, and they don't listen to that instinct, that thing that goes, hang on, this doesn't feel right. all of it. And the guy is so nice and he's so charming. He's like, oh, no, 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 it's okay. It's okay. I'm just gonna leave the door open. You'll feel safer that way. You know, like these little concessions you make, and women sort of, they don't listen to that instinct in them that goes, wait a minute, something wrong is happening here and I shouldn't be alone with this guy. And I think that that sets a stage for girls to be cornered. And that's why I wanted to write about it in my book.
Yeah, it happens when you're younger, and when you get older, you hopefully don't get cornered anymore. But yeah, it's important to listen to your instincts.
Yeah.
Okay, so before we start the questions, just wanted to let everyone know, if you have any questions, please type it into the question box. I will weave your questions in between mine, the discussion that I'll be having with Josie. So leave your questions if you have any questions at all about writing, about the characters, about the books, about violence against women, about sexism, misogyny, anything. Josie is here for the next hour to answer us.
To talk with you, to answer your questions.
Yeah. So here we go. So yeah, so I'm glad you started with that reading that scene, because I do have lots of questions about that scene actually, because not many young adult writers actually tackle this subject. Yeah. And so was it a difficult scene to write? You know.
No,
like,
unfortunately, I've seen it happen way too many times. Or even girls that are like, yeah, I'll have a drink, and then all of a sudden they're having two, and then they're having three, and then, you know, it's too much for them. And I think women especially get blamed in situations like that. Like people say, well, you shouldn't have drunk. You shouldn't have had anything to drink. I think women should be safe no matter what situation they're in or whether or not they've had anything to drink. The reason why I wanted to write about it was because it makes me very angry when I see people blaming the woman. Like, well, she shouldn't have been partying. She shouldn't have worn that dress. She shouldn't have been drinking or dancing or sitting on that guy's lap. And it's the blame the victim mentality, and it just makes me so angry. And I think that there are so many women who can relate to that. And when they read this, they're reading it going, no, don't go in the room with him. No, don't sit on the couch with him. No, get out of there. You know what I mean? And it's like, I think so many of us have seen it, or it's even happened to us before, that we're like, no, get out, get out. So for me, I tried to be as true as I could to that situation as I possibly, you know.
Yeah, you know, you said you were a bartender for 15 years, right? Yeah. In Washington, D.C., the bartenders said they've started training. There's now training for bartenders to recognize these kinds of situations and to put a stop to it. And they're reporting starting to work, like, because bartenders see everybody. I mean, you're working, right, behind the bar. You must see everything. So bartenders are able to take steps to sort of intervene and stop things before it goes pear-shaped. And I thought that is such a cool idea. It's kind of like for domestic violence, you know, they in some countries, in some cities, they actually train beauticians and hairdressers to ask the right questions if they see any bruising when they're tending to their clients. So it's
fantastic.
Yeah, it's basically bartenders, anyone in the service industry that you know, can observe things. You know, it's great to have them, you know, to get the training. A lot of them say it's great to know what to do, because most of the time they don't. And did you hear that story like a few months back, earlier this year, where a couple of women, 3 women were having a drink in the bar, and then they noticed that this man and woman were there at another table having a drink. And then when the woman got up to go to the bathroom, if I remember the story correctly, the man was
putting something in her drink.
Yeah, and then they did something about it, and then the bartender and the bar manager basically called the police, and he was escorted out. Turned out that he roofied, so he did so much date rape.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's so crazy. And it's always like, oh, well, you know, it's okay. I can trust that guy. He can hold my drink or but and you don't want to live your life like terrified of everybody that you come across. It's just I think if more people had, like, even teenage girls just had more training, just somebody told them, hey, don't let anybody else pour your drink for you. you be the one to pour your own drinks. Like if you want to drink, you be the one to pour your own drink. Don't put your drink down and leave it with people. Like even just teenage girls, like, but you know, that nobody wants to talk about that because then they don't want to address the whole underage drinking issue. And it's like, well, it's happening. So would you rather them, you know, just go out there and be doing it and not be doing it safely? Or would you rather them, you know, just to have that conversation? I think that education is just as important for everybody, you know, like the bartenders, the hairdressers, and young girls themselves, just to be like, hey, don't let anybody else hold your drink.
And boys too, you know, they have to be taught, you know, this is, you do not put roofies in someone's drink. You do not.
This is illegal. This is an act of violence, you know?
This is criminal, you know? I mean, the police actually, you know, I told you about the guy that the two women saw and then alerted the management and the bartender, and, you know, basically he just got, I think he got prosecuted and he's in jail now. Good. It's a crime to actually drug someone. So, and also, you know, good people don't do that. You know, you want to, you know, you want to go out have a drink with your friends, fine. Don't roofie their drinks.
Right, right.
You know, simple as that. Don't do it, you know? It's just a decent
But everybody needs to be taught, like, these are the consequences if you do something like that. And also just a heads up way of going about the world. I think it's better to have that conversation when a woman's really young, and rather than just be like, oh, but my daughter's not going to go to a party with a bunch of football players and drink. It's like, no, to actually sit down and have the conversation with your kid. Like, this could happen to you, so be safe, you know? And it's not even that you're, as a parent, you're going to be approving of that. Like, you're not saying, oh yeah, go and drink with your friends. It's just, even if you're just going to go and have a glass of water, be careful, you know?
Yeah, it's kind of sad. I mean, in this world that we have to do that, you know, but a lot of people say, like I said just now, you know, boys also need to be educated not to act like that, not to roofie people's
Exactly, exactly.
And, you know, but it's not an ideal world. So everyone, it's like you said, it's like a 360-degree thing. Bartenders, house mothers, parents, teachers, everyone, you know, everyone needs to be aware of this. Now, what would your advice be to authors who want to address the issue of sexual assault in their stories, you know, violence against women, but are afraid to do so?
Wow. Look, if you want to write violence, some kind of violence against women that is in your book, I actually got asked this really fantastic question that that in fiction, when people write that, normally what they do is they have the bad guy punished within the story, right? So you'll have like a man will hurt a woman, and then the woman will get revenge on him, or her sister will go and kill him, or whatever. You know what I mean? It's like there's revenge taken and not prosecution, not actual steps to it. And I don't know. I think I'd kind of like to see that angle too, like a woman that maybe is hurt in a book actually being like, I'm going to go to the police and like I'm going to have him prosecuted. And these are the steps that you need to take. Even though I know that that doesn't make for as interesting a fantasy story, and I do write fantasy, I think that would be an interesting take on it. But I think, you know, try to be as truthful as you can to the situation. My advice to the author is this, to somebody trying to write that, is the same advice I would give any writer trying to approach a scene, is to be as honest about it as you possibly can.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, what struck me about that scene is that, you know, Breakfast, he actually took action when he realized that something was really, really wrong, and that Lily, he knew, right, that Lily was not supposed to be drinking because of her health issues. And then when he saw that, he actually supported her all the way through the horrible confrontation with Kristen, all the way out, you know, to help take her home and stuff like that. And I thought that was great, because it just shows, you know, a lot of times we talk about bystander behavior and how people should step in. Don't they just freeze, or they just don't know what to do? But Breakfast, he stepped in, he held her up, because I don't think Lily was able to walk very far without help. She needed help staying up. and he tried to shield her and he tried to get her out of there, and he actually confronted Scott, I think. He said, what do you put in her drink? She's not supposed to have that, you know? So I thought Breakfast was actually a good example of, you know, a guy who is not afraid to stand up to his male peers to say, dude, what bad, you know, point out the bad thing that he did and say, no, this is wrong. And he's always been like that, I think. When I read through the 2 books, he's always not been afraid to do the right thing. That's what I read about his character.
Yeah, Breakfast is a good guy. And the thing is that he's not like an openly brave guy. Like, he's not the best fighter. He's not that, but you don't have to be like this giant badass to be somebody who knows right from wrong and be like, wait a minute, that's not good enough. And I'm not going to allow that to go on around me. And to be the kind of person who, you know, you don't have to be the biggest dude in the room, or you can be another woman and you just be like, that's not right. Like, what you're doing is wrong. And just that kind of bravery is so rare, but so important in the world. Just to be like, actually, no, I'm not going to allow that to happen in my circle.
Yeah. So, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm not reading the books correctly. There seems to be little to no instances of sexual assault or rape in Lillian's world, although there are plenty of other forms of violence such as war and genocide. Did you consciously make it so?
Well, the reason why in Lillian's world, it's, I think the way that I've set up the magical system, I'm sure it's not that it doesn't happen. There actually are men that aren't on the ranches that have been kicked out of the cities that have been convicted of rape. And in the second book, in Firewalker, Lily encounters them when she's in the Cinder World. So it's not like those people don't exist. It's just, it's very hard to get away with something like that in a city where you have mind-reading witches and where women run the world. Like, this is a society that's completely female-dominated. And all they have to do is claim you and read your mind. So women are in a much different position in Lillian's world than they are in our world. And that was one of the reasons why I wanted to write these books. I wanted to write a world where women did run the show completely. Yeah.
It is interesting because you actually reclaimed the term witch. So witch becomes, you know, it's such a...
You froze up on me.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yeah. We can go back and say that again.
Okay. I said what was interesting about WORLDWALKERs. Oh, by the way, before I continue, say, guys, I'm sorry. I had only read WORLDWALKERs so far. So if any of you are star-crossed fans, please leave your questions in the question box.
Oh, yeah.
Do it. So don't worry. I know that some of you might have questions about star-crossed. Please ask away. I will read out your questions. But we're talking about WORLDWALKERs because that's also the series where we encounter forms of violence against women, and what Josie said about, you know, women in power and all that. So back to the question. What I wanted to observe was that you reclaimed the term witch, which is a pejorative in our world, and in that world, it's not a pejorative at all. It's, you know, it's of honorific of the most powerful women in their world. So what did you make a conscious decision to do that? Did you say, okay, I'm going to reclaim this term?
Yeah, it's a reimagining of the world. If in 16, I believe like 1630, 1640, something like that, if all of a sudden witches rose up and took over the world. So if you go back that far, like all the way into the Puritan roots of the United States of America, and you change the society top down and make women in charge, there's going to be a lot of stuff that's different. And like even sexuality, like the way that I talk about it in these books, it's like sexuality is much more open. It's like that nobody owns it. There isn't that concept of I don't know, you're a bad person, or there's not one. Nobody is called a slut ever in my books, period. But nobody is especially called a slut in this world, because there is that pejorative term is gone. All of these labels that you can put on women, like you're a witch, you're a slut, you're, you know, they're all gone. They don't exist in this world, in a bad way. But I think that that's because it's, you know, where women have gone, hey, hold on a second. I'm not going to be controlled by a label. I'm going to take control of the label and run the world.
Okay, so let's go to some viewer questions, because there's one that's that links directly to what we were just talking about, and there's another about your research and writing processes. So let's go to the one that directly relates to what we're talking about. It's a question from Anusha. Hang on. And she says, do you think that in a world where the matriarchy is more dominant, there would be less or no incidences of violence against women, or justice for such crimes would be more efficient?
I think it would be less, and I think justice would be much harsher and much. With Lillian's world, it's not just that women are in charge. It's like the nature of witchcraft in the way that it is. Like a witch can actually possess one of her mechanics' bodies. Like if she's claimed someone, she can actually possess their body. And that's something that we obviously can't do. So the whole idea of somebody being physically stronger than you, it doesn't come into play in this world, because they can control you. And so I think that, yeah, there'd be much less violence against women, but that doesn't mean that there aren't people who would still have the impulse to be violent toward women. So like in the first book, I have Gideon. He hates the structure of the world. He doesn't want women to be in charge. He doesn't want witches to be in charge. And he is very violent towards women, but he doesn't get away with it ultimately.
Yeah, Gideon was, I didn't like him at all, you know. His attitude sucks. Sorry guys for the bad language, but his attitude sucks.
Yeah. Well, he's looking for a way where he can be the most powerful person. So that means he's got to change the whole system, right? Because he's a man, so he wouldn't be in charge. So now he's got to change the whole system in order to, you know, gain power. And he is quite horrible to Lily. Yeah, he imprisons her.
He just resented the fact that Lillian just didn't use him, didn't possess him, didn't, you know, even though he's a mechanic, she, you know, unlike what she did with Rowan. Is it Rowan? Did I pronounce that?
Yeah. Okay. Rowan.
Okay. So the next question, let's take a break from heavy stuff and let's go to Flor. Flor Silva has a question, and she's what things did you research and get ideas from in order to write the WORLDWALKER trilogy and Star-Crossed?
Well, both of them. Star-Crossed, I'd always loved Greek mythology. That was just something that I really grew up reading, and I always loved it, probably because it was always a little bit dark. Like there was this element to it where, you know, there was madness. Like, you know, Hercules went mad and murdered his whole family, and I was like, what? You know, and he's like this great hero. So I was always really drawn to Greek mythology, and I had read a lot of it. But the research that I did, I can even show you the book. It's not that I did research. It's while I was writing Star-Crossed, I would just open this book. Notice her last name, Hamilton, Helen Hamilton. It all comes together now. So this was sort of like my Bible. Edith Hamilton's mythology was written in like 1954 or something like that. That was like my Bible for, who is that guy related to, and who is the descendant of that god? But it wasn't that I did research. It was just as I was building the story, I would realize like, I forgot what that god was the god of. And like, you'd have to go back and look it up. And I used Edith Hamilton's mythology for all of that. For my WORLDWALKER trilogy, I grew up in Massachusetts. So the Salem lore and like the Salem witch trials was something that I just knew. And the witchcraft is based on string theory, and that's something that I'm just interested in. So it's not that I ever, see, here's what it is. You spend your whole life reading and being curious, and when you come to write a book, you realize you don't really have to do any research because you've already done it. It's like you just live a life curious, and you live a life reading lots of books as you go along, and you realize you already know it, and it's all the elements are there when you're ready to write the book. So for me, it's always been write what you know, and strangely enough, that was Greek mythology and string theory and witches. So,
All right, Flor. Hopefully that answers your question. Now, if anyone else has any other questions, please, we're still here for another half an hour or so. Please just type in your questions. Josie will answer as many as she can. And in the meantime, we will continue our discussion. If you have any questions about the discussion, please, also any comments, just type it in to the question box and we will answer them. Okay, so let's go back to your books. And well, the female characters in your books and your stories are generally complex women with agency, and they are so indomitable. They get pushed down, they just get back up again. Even Lily's mother, who has such a tenuous hold on reality due to being present in so many worlds at once, like where she is able to pull herself together to help Lily when it really counts. Like she's able to really be there, be present for Lily. It really counts. When Lily ended up transitioning back into a world all burnt, nearly to a crisp, in the middle of the road, she's able to get them there. So why is it important for you to portray female characters in that way? I know this is such a Joss Whedon question, right? They asked him once, why do you write strong female characters? And he goes, because you are still asking me that question. But I think it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see what you say, because every author has a different answer to that. So why is it important for you to write female characters this way?
They're more interesting. They're just more interesting. Like it really just hands down, like the more fleshed out your female characters are, the more complicated they are, the better your book is going to be, period. The more fleshed out any of your characters are. You want your characters to make a mistake and then try to fix it. Like you don't need your characters to be perfect or always brave. Like the whole beginning of the second book in the WORLDWALKER trilogy, in Firewalker, Lily is not brave. She does not want to go back to Lillian's world and Rowan's world. She can't go back there emotionally. She'd been tortured there. Horrible things happened to her. It's not even about that, but I guess it's maybe bravery is what you do in the last moment, not in the first. So for a while, she's terrified. She doesn't want to go back, but she does pull herself together and go there when she needs to. But for me, having characters make the hard choice is always much more interesting. And also, I'm the youngest of 8 kids, and I have 6 older sisters. And when people ask me, like, how do you come up with such complicated women? I'm like, I grew up with complicated women. It was surrounded by complicated women my whole life. I don't know anything but strong women, period. I don't know where these weak women are hiding, because I've never met them. It's like every woman I've ever met in my life, all of my girlfriends, my family, they're all strong, independent. They take chances. They live complicated and creative lives. And I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't know where weak women are. I don't see them anywhere. So I write what I know, and I know strong women.
Yeah, interesting that you have 6 older sisters. I mean, just a little aside, my mom is one of 11 kids, and she has 7 sisters.
Yeah.
4 older and 3 younger, and it's like, and I have so many aunts. Like it's exactly what Josie says. Everybody, it's like we do not know women who do not.
Where are these weak women? Who waits in a tower for some guy to come save them? I've never met that woman. Like, I think for me, I'm just writing women, period. And sometimes they make mistakes, and sometimes they get a wrong idea in their head. Like Lillian, she's making a horrible mistake with her life, but she's doing it in a huge way. And that's the women I know. I don't know about the rest of you all, but I don't know. I think that honestly, when people write a weak female character, it's because they just didn't do the work. Like, they're just building a poor character to begin with. They didn't give her enough background. They don't have her be a big enough part of the plot. It's because they just didn't think about her enough. So it's just bad writing. That's all.
Or maybe,
Women is bad writing.
or maybe they didn't think of her as, you know, a human being, because like we asked this, some
Bad
authors,
writing.
male authors do sometimes, you know, when we're discussing this question, they do say that in the beginning they do struggle because, you know, obviously they don't see things from women's point, you know, they're male, they don't see things from women's point of view, and then they realize that when they start thinking about it, say, well, I just have to write them as a character, as a person, a human being. That's all we are, people. Women are human beings too. It's like 1% of the human population. So yeah,
it's like just the pronoun. It's just one S. It's he instead of he. It's just an S. It's the same thing. It really is. It's just one little letter in front of the he is a she. And like, as if you're writing, if you need to like block out the fact that there's an S in front of the he, then just do that, because you just have to write rich, full characters. That's it.
Yeah. So you touched on your sisters. You mentioned your sisters. So let's talk about sisterhood and all in your story. So in WORLDWALKER, sisterhood and female empowerment take center stage in the story. How did your experience of having so many sisters help your portrayal of Lily and Juliet's relationship? Because it's interesting, because it's mirror worlds, right? So we have Lily and Juliet in Lily's world, and we have Lillian and Juliet in Lillian's world, and then we have Lily and Lillian's Juliet, who behave more like.
You froze on me.
Oh, okay. So backtrack, right? So we have.
No. And then you have Lily with Lillian's Juliet, and yeah. So you have these interrelationships. For me, I try to focus on nature versus nurture. I just said, well, Juliet's nature is as a caretaker, like she's always taking care of Lily in both worlds, and that's because I have a big sister who. She was the one who was like, "Oh, you forgot your lunch money," because I was a scatterbrained little kid. I was always daydreaming, and she was like, "Oh, you didn't." She would have everything ready. She'd be like, "You forgot to bring your lunch money," so she would bring it for me. Here are your gym clothes, because you have gym today, and you didn't bring gym clothes, and you're not even wearing sneakers. And where the heck are your shoes? Like I would even show up to school sometimes, and I'd be like, "Oh, I'm not wearing shoes." Like that's how scatterbrained I was as a kid. It was horrible, and my.
Without shoes?
I did it once, and the funny thing was that it was freezing out. Like I just didn't. It wasn't snowing, so it wasn't like I was running through snow, but it was really cold out. And I got to school, and I was like, "And I forgot to wear shoes today. How about that?" That only happened once, though. But I have a sister who was always like cleaning up my messes and always taking care of me, and I was a pain. I was such a pain in the butt to her. And that's the relationship that I did for Juliet and Lily, because Lily's the little sister who's constantly causing trouble for Juliet, and Juliet has to go find her again and again and again. And Juliet is the one who has to go save her over and over. So it was just my life, basically. I was writing my relationship with my sister Martha, you know.
Yeah, so it's funny because I'm the big sister, and you do when you're the big sister, you're finding yourself constantly picking up after your younger siblings. It's like, put on your go to school. Oh my God, you lost your luggage. You lost your luggage in transit. Now I have to go to Heathrow to pick it up. You know, and then you grumble, but you do it anyway. You do it.
That's Juliet. Like, I can't believe I walked all the way out into the middle of the forest for you. Like, but she does it anyway. She goes and gets her sister over and over again. And in a lot of ways, it's sort of like, I realized what a sacrifice that was for my sister for all those years. And I really wanted to, you know, give her a great character to read and to identify with.
Did she read WORLDWALKER? Did she like Juliet?
Yeah, she loved it. Yeah. Especially the part where
that's me, isn't it? Did she?
And she was like, "Okay, great." She's like, "Yeah, this doesn't pay for it all, though. Like, we're not even. You still owe me." But yeah, she knows. I told her when I gave her the manuscript before the book was even published, and I was like, "So Julia, it's you. There you go." She was like, "Okay."
Okay, so let's go to the next question in the question box. Now, everybody, just keep typing your questions in the question box. If you have any star-crossed questions, please do that, because we're talking about world walkers today, obviously. And if you have any questions about star-crossed, now is your chance to ask it.
Yay.
Okay, so Anusha has another question. She says, do you think pop culture is moving towards portraying well-rounded female characters, or are we still stuck in the damsel in distress trope? What is your opinion on the pushback against strong female characters such as Furiosa in Mad Max?
Right. Oh, there was pushback on her? She's a...
Oh, no, those men's rights activists, they actually like wrote a big, like, they did a big hoo-ha telling everybody not to
watch. Activists? Who are they?
Oh, yeah, well, we did. Oh, you wouldn't believe it. They actually attack us. Like, they would try to, you know, we have a website with all our resources and stuff for people who are suffering from domestic violence and rape and sexual assault and stuff. Those people actually, I think they actually attacked and took down our site for like 24 hours because they weren't happy with us. This is stuff that they do. So they, for Mad Max, and I think for Ghostbusters as well, they are a lot of them are driving the whole hatred of female characters in action films and well-loved pop culture properties. So, I mean, what's your opinion on that?
There's always going to be blowback, I guess, when you try to change the norm. There's always going to be blowback. But my opinion is that, okay, here's what I think, especially when we're talking about Hollywood. Mm-hmm. They always have to have a strong female character in them now, but they only have one. And that's what bothers me. There's only ever one woman in, like, so you have the Avengers and there's just Black Widow and the rest is all dudes. It's like a sea of dudes and one girl. And it's still not the way the world is, because there are way more females than that in the world. It's not, and what I want to see is more parity, like with what's actually going on in the world. I'd like there to be more than one female role offered to people. But I do think that Hollywood has realized that the movie isn't gonna sell if you've got a weak character, if you've got a weak female character. Nobody's gonna go see it, because women actually do go to see movies and they want to see themselves on the screen. And women don't identify with weak female characters. So they have to write strong female characters. I just wish that they had more of them per movie. So you have like one.
Ghostbusters had 4, and then they had a horrendous amount of abuse, even when the trailer just came out. And then Leslie Jones got hounded on Twitter.
I heard about that. That's just crazy. It's like people get so scared whenever you just, when you want to make things a little bit better, everybody's going to try to come after you, I guess. It's sad.
It's so sad. And we had Dan Wells on Google Hangout yesterday, and he was talking about Star Wars, and he says, now the first trilogy we had Princess Leia, right? And she's iconic as a really cool action character. I mean, she rescues herself. They just, Luke and Han just were able to break her out, but after that she just picks up a stormtrooper's gun and says, this is what
into the garbage chute, flyboy. I love that line.
and he pointed out that it took 38 years for the makers of Star Wars to get to the latest Star Wars film with Rey in it. 38 years, and he says he has Dan has 6 kids. 3 daughters and 3 sons. And he says, it took 38 years for my daughters to be able, 2 of them, to be able to say, oh, I'll be Leia and you'll be Rey. Instead of, I'll be Leia and you have to play Luke, a boy.
Right.
It blows up. 38 years to actually get to the next kick-ass female Star Wars character.
We're getting there. I mean, I think it's happening slowly but surely. I think people are starting to realize that women themselves aren't going to go to see movies if they don't have a character in them to identify with. And also but this goes back even farther than that, because you do have like the Alien trilogy where you have like the original badass woman, you've got Oh, you froze again. Yeah, it was Sigourney Weaver and that character, and just how well that franchise did in general. You know, just to have a strong female character in, you know, out there kicking butt, and you're just going to sell more movie tickets. You're going to sell more books.
It just doesn't make sense because
I hope it.
Sorry.
A little bit at a time, you know.
Mm-hmm. It kind of doesn't make sense, right? Because you mentioned Alien, so that's Sigourney Weaver, and then after that, there was the Terminator movies with Linda Hamilton's character, right? And all these did really, really well. And then you look at the X-Men movies, where there are also a number of, you know,
female characters.
And they did well. So it kind of boggles the mind why Hollywood think that women with, you know, and you look at all, you know, dramas and all that are targeted at women, and they all do really well. They make back their production budget, and they go on, you know, you know, even
they
with
make producers, women go see movies, and we like action movies too. This is the thing, is that it's sort of like they think that only teenage boys go to see action movies or fantasy or science fiction, and it's just not true. I mean, women go to see them too. I love Lord of the Rings. I loved those. I think I saw them in each of them. I saw each of those movies in the movie theaters like 3 or 4 times each. You know, women actually go to see action. We love fantasy. We love science fiction. It's just, it's so slow. It's like this, because you have jerks who are like, you know, white men first, or what is their problem? Like, seriously. You've been first for like 10,000 years. Why don't you just calm down?
Oh yeah, the calm down thing, and we go like,
Calm down. It's so, okay.
Yeah. So Flora has another question related to this.
Cool.
We have strong female characters in the latest, most successful movies based on books such as Twilight, Hunger Games, and Divergent, and they were also written by women. What kind of influence do you think this will have on younger generations? And I will add in Harry Potter, because Hermione, because someone talked about which is more and more YA now. YA books now are having complex female characters like Hermione. Hermione doesn't physically kick ass, but she's so intellectually awesome.
Lily doesn't physically kick ass. In fact, she couldn't defend herself if you gave her a giant. She couldn't even lift a giant sword. That's not the point. Like, I don't think that. First of all, strength doesn't necessarily mean that you go out there and you shoot them up and you cut people to ribbons. Like, that was another point that I wanted to make for my books, because I would not be able to hold my own in a fist fight with a full-grown man. I know that for a fact. I could probably outrun him, but I wouldn't be able to hold my own. So I wanted to point out in my books that there's more than one kind of strength. Like, you can write a strong woman, and she doesn't ever have to, you know, actually beat anybody up. That's not the definition of strength. So I think that with more and more women starting to control books and movies, like there are a few more women who are actually on the producer side of things. We're starting to see more and more stories written for women. And I think it all has a positive, it's got to have some kind of positive, like, impact on a young woman. Like, when she goes to see a movie and she goes, oh, people listen to her when she talks. Maybe they'll listen to me when I talk, you know, like, I don't know. I think we just have to get past that point where women are told to be quiet when they're young girls, and they're allowed to keep leadership roles all the way through, you know, 12, 13, 14, 15 years old. And then they'll really start to believe it.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, Flora, you can see with Ghostbusters as well. You know, they have a character they call Holtzman, and she's the weapons maestro in there. You know, she invents all these crazy weapons, and you can see it. Like, people are actually tweeting at Paul Feig and, you know, the cast saying, "My daughter now wants to be a Ghostbuster. We've gone to get her Ghostbuster. They're putting up the hair in the crazy style that Holtzman has, so just sticking up blonde hair." And then and someone else who's in the cosplaying community said that he went to a Ghostbusters meeting. They have Ghostbusters societies, fan societies, fan clubs, and some of the men are dressing up as Holtzman.
The women. That's awesome.
Awesome.
That's awesome. It's got to change. I mean, like, look, if pop culture is influenced by books and movies, I think that it might be moving in the right direction, because YA has turned into this huge female-driven machine. And maybe it will make some young women go, hey, I could actually be in charge of something. I hope. I really do. I hope.
So anyway, so let's touch a little bit, because you have a little toddler daughter of your own.
Yeah. I gotta go put her to bed soon.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll wrap up pretty soon. So if anyone has any questions, do it quick, because is she 2 or she's 3?
She'll be 2 in 2 weeks. Yeah, she's almost 2.
So she's 22, almost 24 months. Cool.
Yep.
Okay. So the question is, you know, parents are usually the most influential role models in a person's life. As a mom to a little girl, and you obviously know other moms with little boys as well, what do you think parents can do to help prevent violence against women and girls in future generations, and to get boys involved in helping to do so?
I think, like we were talking earlier about educating from a very young age, like educating boys too. Like, no, you don't treat women that way. You don't talk to them that way. This is a crime. This is not, you know, I think starting at not treating every young boy like a criminal, but treating him in a way that he understands what is right and what is wrong and what isn't acceptable, even when nobody's looking. That's the most important thing. Like, and also teaching young women how to protect themselves from a very young age, I think is very important.
Yeah. All right. So 2 more questions, and anyone else who has any questions, there's 2 more from me. And if you have any questions, quick, put it in the question box now. But basically, in your opinion, how can authors like yourself best support efforts to kick off social change to end violence against women? And I'm asking this because over the last couple of years, we've had a lot of interesting answers from different authors. Some, like Joe Hill, said that it's all about stories. Stories help transmit messages. Some say, you know, just getting stuck in with campaigns like this. But what do you think? What can authors
start talking about it? I think that if nobody takes anything else from my books, I want them to at least use them as a jumping off point for a conversation with their kids, right? Because I know in YA, a lot of moms share books with their children, boys and girls. And if they could just start talking about what it means to be a woman and what violence against women does to a society as a whole, not just to the woman, but what it really does to an entire society, because the way that you treat your women is really the baseline for what your society is and what it will accomplish. If it could just start a conversation between people, that would make me really happy. Just to start talking about it.
Yeah, it's because it's a taboo, right? Like in many communities and societies, like even talking about, you know, one form of violence against women is domestic violence. And even talking about domestic violence, people just, you know, a lot of people hear the neighbor screaming at his wife.
And it's their business.
And it's their business. I'm not gonna, you know, and screaming the most horrible, abusive things. Or right. You see the kids and wife come out, you know, with a female partner come out with bruises and everything, and you don't say anything. And it's when you don't say something,
right.
It could very well be the end, right? It could be the end of them, because a lot of times it ends badly. It ends with death, murder. You know, so say something. Like breakfast. He said something, right? Like you showed breakfast saying something like, "Scott, what did you do?" That's all he had to ask, right. And to stand up to it, and to help Lily sort of get on her feet and walk out to the car. Like, it could be something like that. But a lot of times people don't. It's something simple like that. A lot of times people don't do it, maybe because they don't know what to do in that situation. Right. But guys, if you're listening to this and there are a number of you here, thank you so much for joining us today. If there's one thing you're going to take away from this is if you see something, say something and do something. And if you're not sure, you can tweet at us to ask us with ideas for how you can take action safely for yourself to stop whatever is happening, you know, any assault or that's happening, any domestic violence, how, you know, what else can you do? Like, reach out to us. We're your resource. We're not frontliners, but if you know someone who's being abused, if you hear it in your neighbors, if your friend is experiencing that, you don't know what to do, come to us. We can direct you to the right people in your area. So, you know, contact us. But the final question for Josie today, before we wrap up and show you the cute little slide we put together so you can go to the campaign to donate, is so Josie, you have been so very incredibly supportive of our Read for Pixels campaign and our anti-violence against women work as a whole. So it's a Captain Obvious question, but let's go. Why do you support the cause to end violence against women? Why?
Because I want the world to be a better place for my daughter. And that's it. I mean, the way that we treat women is what our society should be judged on. Like, how we treat women is how our children get treated. It's how the next generation gets raised. It's about furthering society and making the world a better place overall.
Okay.
Really.
So Flora says, thanks for the Q&A and for making a difference supporting this great cause. That's her message to you.
Oh, thank you, sweetie. That's so nice. Of course. We're in this together.
So I'm going to switch myself on screen, guys, now, and just wrap this up and also share you that cute little slide so you can go get your goodies, because we got tons of goodies. Tons. I know. I'm here. Okay, I'm back. So as mentioned earlier, Josie had generously donated a signed and personalized Star-Crossed Trilogy set, a signed and personalized WORLDWALKER's duology set, and a 200-word microstory especially written for one generous donor. They have all been snapped up. In fact, Josie, they were snapped up within 48 hours, I think.
Yeah, it was great.
Going up. So there'll be some very happy people waiting for their postman at some point soon. Oh, is she here?
Yeah, my baby's coming in the room, so I have to go now.
Okay, so I will put you on screen first, and I will share the slide once you're gone. So, so Josie, do you have any last things to share? Oh wait, before you go, I'll show the slide so you can see it too, and then you can, okay. So let me share this. All right. Okay, Josie, do you see the slide?
I do.
Okay, guys, so if you want to go get the goodies to help us continue our great work, help us raise funds to continue our great work, go to is.gd/R4P Indiegogo 2016. If you only have PayPal, go to is.gd/R4P Razoo 2016. But if you go by PayPal, we only have the wallpapers for you. And to find out more about Read for Pixels, go to is.gd/Read4Pixels. And now to stop this, and let's go back to Josie now. Josie, any last things you want to say before we go off? And guys, stay back after this, because I'm going to tell you a little bit more about, after Josie's gone, I'll tell you a little bit more about what's coming up. So Josie, any last things?
Just thank you so much, and I'm so happy to be a part of this, and just thanks for showing up. That's it.
All right, Josie, so we'll talk to you on email, and have a good night, and I'll switch it back to me so you can go off.
Thank you so much.
Okay, bye, Josie. All right, so guys, if you want to find out more about the Celebrity Male Role Model Pixel Reveal campaign, please visit reveal.thepixelproject.net to learn more about it, and please donate generously, as I said. And thank you, and good night or good morning. Have a great Saturday night or Sunday morning, wherever you are in the world. And if you are a fantasy fan, you might want to tune in tomorrow to our Max Gladstone Max Gladstone Google Hangout. You can go check it out at is.gd/Gladstone, R for P, or you can go to our Facebook page on Facebook, The Pixel Project. It's time to stop Violence Against Women together to find out more. Thank you so much and have a really good night.